Hi, everybody. Uh, I know it's a little early today, but I gotta take off at 8:15, so I figured now would be a good time to have some stuff. Let me get started right away. The the two things I wanted to kick around with you guys. Um, First of all, is that the whole thing about silicon and watches, and there's people say, well, it's an advancement and it's very practical. I couldn't agree more. Okay, but let me remind you, as watch collectors, we're not very practical. I Most people get into it for things like craftsmanship or something like that. I mean, like you want sort of the art, if you will. Hi, boy, you. How you doing, man? Anyway, so I thought this would be something we're talking about. Let me just start with an illustration. This is my iPhone, and with my iPhone, I can get, the accuracy is, they got some in there, it's connected up to an atomic clock somewhere, and so I have almost perfect accuracy. So when we talk about adding silicon in hairsprings, and we have silicon in uh, escapements because they're better, and they are, okay? Not denying that they're better. That doesn't mean that we're losing a little of the craftsmanship. There's not a thing a good watchmaker can do with silicon, okay? They may be able to take one silicon hairspring off and put on another one, but it's not something that they can adjust. I was talking to the other day, I was talking to a guy who used to be a judge for the Grand Prix, and he was all excited. He had just gotten back from Europe, I think from Germany or Switzerland, and they had a big uh, conference, and they were going on, and he was telling me all how great silicon was for hairsprings and escapements. I pointed out to him, I said, "You're a watchmaker." I said, "You can't touch that stuff." And he said, "Oh yeah, right." It's To me, it's important. All right. Now I know a lot of people it's not, but on the other hand, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's not better because it's totally anti-magnetic. It's more resistance to heat and cold. There are all kinds of things that you can go on about it. Let me give you an example here. Here's a watch that is no longer made. You can see I took a picture of it from Chrono 24. And in this watch, I don't know exact the name of it, but there's a round movement. And the round movement has some kind of metal hairspring. I'm not sure which kind. This is a Patek Philippe Gondolo. Now, this one, there's another one that came out a couple of years later. And all of this is into the early 21st century. They came out with another one, and this, I think it was around 2007. I could be wrong. But that's when they started. That's when Patek Philippe started using silicon hairsprings. I forgot what they called it, but they have some name for their hairsprings and their escapements, both of which use silicon. These are less expensive, and there's a jump. I think this is called the 5024, and the 5124 is significantly more expensive, but the 5124 has the silicon. And so it's a funny kind of thing, not to be a sort of an insane traditionalist for the sake of being a traditionalist, but rather because that's what I got into watch collection for, was for the art and craft of it, not just, see how many they can crank out and make accurate, because like I said, I got my iPhone for that. In fact, I got something even better that's more portable. This is my Fitbit. And if I tap my Fitbit, it'll come up with the correct time, 7:51. That's what my computer says. So I think, on the other hand, though, really good mechanical watchmaking can have higher accuracy. I mean, accuracy is one of the criteria that we use. When I got my Kalpa, my Parmigiani Kalpa back from service, that thing was started keeping perfect time. Before that, before I had it serviced and also overhauled because it needed a new stem, I think, and some other parts of the keyless works thing, I put it on my time grapher and I got all zeros. I mean, it was incredibly accurate. Now, after a while, it'll do what they tend to do, and it'll slow down or get too fast or something will happen to it. And that's okay. I mean, it's sort of, there's a personality to it that I've come to expect and really like. Okay, let's see. Been drinking. All right. Oh my goodness. Let me welcome all of you who you got up so early. Andrew Jit, how are you? Andrew, Jean-Claude, Rick on. Ajit Paul, how are you? Let's see. Junior, hi Junior. Let's see. Thomas, hi Thomas. Listen, Thomas, I really meant to make your punters last week and I missed it. So everyone, if you want to have a good time, the punters meet every Sunday, I think at 2:00, and we're having family here, so things are a little off. But anyway, be sure Tom and Bruce have this really good sort of online discussion. Okay, let's see who else is here. I got to say hi to Christian M. How are you? Before an in-house movement has around long enough for a general watchmaker to be able to repair it. I don't know. You know, this. I think, Christian, that's a good question. How long does the movement have to be around? It depends on two things. One, can they get the parts, and two, do they have the skills to deal with it? So that's my answer to that. Abdul, how you doing, man? Tony, let's see. Hey, Javi, how are you? Lee, hi, Lee. Good morning. Boy, I really appreciate you guys getting up so early. Now, I know that those of you over in Europe and other places, it's not early at all. For us, at least even on the East Coast, it's pretty early. Hi, Koji. Koji, I know how to say Koji now. Let's see, on a broader level, I feel the same way, Bill, regarding acoustic pianos versus synthesizer electric. Yes, it's the same kind of thing, Koji. That's a great analogy. Even though synthesizers, there's so much more you can do with it. So what? I mean, there's two different kinds of things going on. Sorry, I haven't got back to you yet. Okay, all right, talking to JJ. All right, watch talk with the punters every Sunday, 2:00 EST. Hey, Andy, how you doing, man? Pretty early for me. I know. I'm sorry, guys, but like I said, I gotta really boogie at 8:15. So. Thought I'd talk about this. Okay, so that was one thing. The one thing I want to talk about here, you have you can find this watch with a metal hairspring, and the next more expensive version has a silicone hairspring. And it's sort of the great dilemma. Not because if I got one, let's say like this. Something I don't like about it, this has a round movement. The newer ones are a shape movement. Well, I like shape movement, but I don't like silicone, so that's another issue. Okay, now here's another one I want to talk about. Hey, Clyde, how you doing, man? So when is mechanical not mechanical? Lee, don't ask hard questions, Lee. All right, that's a good point. I don't know. It's like when it's mechanical, not mechanical. When a mechanic can't work on it, that's when. How's that for an answer? Okay, here are a couple other things. Now, back in the early 2000s, there was almost like a renaissance. So many cool things happened between 2000 and about in 2010. there was really all kinds of good stuff going on. One of the things is that this is by Daniel Roth, and it's a retrograde. And it's a retrograde I sort of think is cool. It goes back and forth like this, and this goes around. Now, these had a base movement of an ETA, okay? And the reason for that is that, you know, to make a whole new movement for every watch that Daniel Roth was going to put out would make them prohibitively expensive. And what they wanted to do was to make watches that were distinctively Daniel Roth or Roger Dubuis or one of these other guys. But what they wanted to do, they wanted to make them affordable. And so what they did is that they would use ETAs as basis. Sometimes they'd use a Soprod 810. Now, this was when you could still get an ETA. You can't, unless you're part of Swatch, you can't get them anymore, which to me is sort of a plus, but don't tell me when I said that. Okay. All right. So they had these, and the prices of these were like, I don't know, between $2,000 and $3,000 back then. And I got one, which was, I don't know, I think probably around 4,000. It's a little Daniel Roth, and it has an El Primero movement in it. Okay, well, El Primero is a good movement, and I like that. But you know, the more I looked at it, I said, there's nothing Daniel Roth about this watch except the shape. So I got my Daniel Roth watch with somebody else's movement. Now, another watch I got, which turned out to have an ETA 2892 in it, was this Christian Vanderclaw. Now, Christian Vanderclaw did the same thing. This guy's watches, I think their cheapest Moon, it's called the Real Moon Jour or something like that. And they're incredible watches, but they start around $30,000. So I couldn't even think about that. I mean, I could think about it, it wouldn't do any good. So I ended up, I found this Series 74, which, by the way, I think they quit making. First, they had Soprod 810s in them, and for some reason, right when I got mine, they switched over to 64 ETA 2892s, and then they had the complication was the moon phase, which was done by Christian Vanderclaw. So you sort of get a little of the. Now these disappeared. All right, they're very hard to find. When I got mine, I got it brand new from a dealer in the Netherlands, and I got, you know, I paid, I think it was about 5,000 for it or something like that. I hate to mention that in case I want to sell it. Try to sell it for twice that much. But you have these kinds of things. Rick on, Daniel Roth is still involved in making these watches. But see, here's the thing, Rick. He makes watches that we can't afford. They're $100,000 watches. I mean, people think that Roger Smith is the only guy that they have people lined up around the block waiting for years to get a watch. So is Daniel Roth. But so the idea was back in the early 2000s, you know, we're talking 20 years ago now, he decided, I think he was with, I don't know if that was before or after he was with Bulgari, but the point was, he said, hey, you know, I still want to have a distinct watch, but I want to make one that's affordable. And the only way we can do this is stick in an ETA, and then we'll build on top of that, which is not uncommon. Okay. And a lot of really top watchmakers were doing it. I mentioned Roger Dubuis. His was a little crazier because he had this nutty partner, but that's another story. Okay. So anyway, so when these came out, they were really affordable. Now, this one I happen to really like because it's a retrograde. I don't know who did the retrograde. Some of the other retrogrades I had were done by Agenor, which is like super good. And so I thought that was really neat. And then another one was this one, which is by Daniel Roth, which is called the Papillon, the butterfly. Well, these things, suddenly they become rare. They're really expensive. This is white gold. And of course, white gold is any gold is shot up. And so the watchmakers, even though they may not be paying as much as we do on top of that. Still, it really has shut everything up. And so what we had at one time, we don't have very much anymore. Hey, Dominic, how you doing? Gary, how are you? Okay. Koji, don't get Thomas started on synthesizers. All right, let's see. Retrograde by Agano. Why does that sound familiar? Oh, that's what we've been working on. And I believe there's some in one of your watches too, Clyde. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to find the best, most affordable platinum watch I can get my hands on. Platinum is, for some reason, they jacked that up even higher. Hi, Andrew. How you doing? Oh, okay. So, hey, Gary, if I didn't greet you before, hello. All right, so we got these things, and this was one, I think it was this one, or maybe, no, I think it was this one. And I was looking at a Sotheby's auction, and they were estimating this would sell between $3,000 and $6,000. This wasn't, I just looked it up online. I don't know what the date on it, but then it sold for like 12,000 or something like that. And now, they're even more expensive. And you take that 12,000, you add 25% that the auctioneer gets, and you're talking $15,000 for a watch that they had evaluated as between $3,000 and $6,000. So what we're seeing now is that two things are happening. Daniel Roth, the company in his name, I forgot who was the backer for it. Something weird happened anyway. Or Bulgari bought it and bought the name along with it. And then he went with Bulgari for a year, and that didn't work out too well. So now he's doing what he loves doing, and he makes these gorgeous, what are they called, double tourbillons or something like that. And he's got, like I said, just like Roger Smith, got people waiting for years. And so the other stuff, this, it's sort of like an artist's dream, painting what you want or doing what you want, as opposed to something that's more market driven. So, the Harry Winston. Sorry, Clyde. Yeah, right. You got, Harry Winston. I've been seeing those things. You talk about watches that are sneaking north on the price. They really are. Okay, I think as people become more and more aware of what they're getting in luxury watches, something that had been so much, it's all Rolex and all Patek Philippe, they're getting a little smarter now. Than when we start looking at what of these independents do, man, it's just like, holy smoke. They sort of live on a different planet. So anyway, all right. Hey, Abdul, they got money laundering going on. That's quite possible. That's another thing. And I'll say this, and if you're a watch dealer, I don't mean you. I mean everybody but you. All right. I watched a really good little drama the other night on Madoff, Bernard Madoff, and how he stole billions of dollars, and how he did it with, basically the cops hooking on the Security Exchange Commission and so forth. And I see so much of that in the watch business. It's very depressing that, not everyone starts screaming their head off when they point out that somebody put a movement in the watch that they paid a lot of money for. And, you talk about $2,000 or $3,000 for a watch. That's a lot of money. I don't care what anybody says. You go out and spend $2,000 or $3,000 on anything else, and becomes a big project. But on a watch, that's an inexpensive one. And I say that because the truth doesn't seem to have the value I think that it should. If we're looking for craftsmanship, if we're looking for quality, uh, we shouldn't have to put up with anything but, up front. This is what the watch is. Now, you take something like uh, this one right here. It's got an ETA base in it. And there's another one I've been looking at by two. One is by Vincent Calabrese, and it's the one called Konos, and it's got all of this stuff in it, and it's got an ETA base. And if you read about it at his site, he tells you that's what it's got. Antoine, Antoine, I mispronounced his name, but anyway, Prezuzzo, Antoine Prezuzzo. He also has one with a little globe and all this other stuff, and he's got an ETA, and he tells you, okay, that's all. I mean, and you don't have to pay as much as for like one of Antoine Prezuzzo's tourbillons of tourbillons. Those things are hundreds of thousands of dollars, and but so much more of the watch business is just one fabrication after the other, and that sort of bothers me. And the thing is that they don't seem to be ashamed of it. In fact, it's the opposite. Like you point out, hey, that IWC that's called IW 2215 is really an ETA 2894. And it's sort of like, well, you're a spoiled sport. What would you point that out for? What's wrong with you? I mean, come on. A lot of these things, and one of the ironies is given ETA movements a bad name. They're perfectly good movements, but they're not as expensive as the movements by, let's say, Vacheron Constantin. By the way, too, the guy who's sort of the head designer of movements at Vacheron Constantin is having a talk on the Horological Society of New York. If you're Horological Society New York members, that's something you might be interested in. Also, too, I found out that I get free subscriptions to both Eurostar, which is one of my favorite watch magazines, and I think it's called IW International Watches. You got those now. They just added it. There was no extra cost. So another thing, a little plug for the new. I should wear my pin. Okay. D. Roth, like Roger Dubuis, two of my vintage RDs have quadruple, at least in value. I've never sell. Well, never is a long time, but soon. Yeah, Rick, that's the other thing that happened to mine too. After I got my Easy Diver, man, those prices, I was watching the prices just start going up and up and up. And which if you own one, that's a good thing. If you want to buy one, it's not so good. So it depends on your perspective. And, there's it's just something that, and the same thing with silicon. Here you have this one you have with a round movement with no silicon. And then you have one that looks a lot like it with a shape movement, which to me is the way movements ought to go, which was a brand new development at Patek Philippe. I forgot what they used as a base. Somebody said they thought they used the 215 as a base. I don't know, but but still we have, okay, so you got, is that the extent to which you want more accuracy? I got $10 to go get a quartz watch, and that'll keep up great time. So I don't even have to mess with that. I can just take my Fitbit, give it a tap, and up comes the correct time. Okay, watch out for Stefan Kadoki. Let me tell you something interesting about him, if I may, okay? I like his stuff, I really do. And a lot of people say, well, it's, it just sort of, it's got a base of an A11 from Harbring 2. Maybe not. I think there was some influence because they worked together. But I don't know. It's funny. Uh, he has been on longer. There's this other guy, this French guy, Cyril, somebody or other. He went from the waiting list, boom, right to a member very quickly. Now, when you compare their watches, he did the movement from the brass right on up to the whole thing, and then had it key wound, which is something that was near and dear to George Daniels' heart, and it looked a lot like something Abraham Breguet would make. So I think that even in AHCI, there are levels. Okay, we'll see what happens. I'm all for Kadoki. By the way, too, there's Kadoki 1 and Kadoki 2. I like Kadoki 2 so much better, but all it really is, they've added a day-night feature to it. But it's a very nice one. I hope Kadoki makes it. He and the former president of AHCI, Marco Lang, both live in Dresden, Germany. So there maybe old Marco help him over the line. Okay. It's funny. Some of the really great independents have nothing to do with AHCI. Two I can think of right off the top of my head are Roger Smith and Richard Hobring. They don't have anything against it. They just, for whatever reason, they just never bothered to join. Neither did Daniel Roth or some others. I don't know if Roger Dubuis did either. But anyway, a real collection shouldn't be about the value, but how much you like to watch it. Yeah, Thomas, there's I agree with that. There's some watches I was thinking of getting, but then I realized I would never wear it. I thought, forget about it then. Hi, Alex. What did Clyde say? He disappeared. What happened to Clyde? Oh, there he is. Okay. I think the whole point in having a collection is have watches you cherish so much that the resale value is irrelevant. Exactly. In fact, the thing is, the only thing I'm looking at when I talk about the prices of these watches going up and going crazy is what we can afford to get. Not so much that you're buying a financial investment, but you're buying a watch that has some kind of both intrinsic value to yourself and intrinsic value as watch. I mean, somebody, can slap together a, good looking watch with some cheap movement. I got several here that I've knocked together, pretentious watchmakers. But yeah, this is the other thing. Abdul, the trendiness, it's 8:15. Oh, you're right. I do have to run. I got an appointment. You guys take care, and I'll be back at 4:00. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks, Bruce.